So we're back and moving on to the next thing, and that is setting levels in different types of instrumentation. So since the last one, I've actually completed patching my entire sheet. See, I have little tick marks next to it. So the next time that you see the editor that I'll be showing you, you'll see that everything is already patched. You want to make sure that's done before you jump into this part of the lesson. So here we are back in the editor, and as you can see, I have all of my fixtures patched into my channels here that I'm going to use, including way up here at the top I have those moving lights and those LED fixtures. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about here is how to set levels on any of those given things. I'm going to click over here into the Live tab so that you can see it. And one thing that's really intuitive about the ETC programming language is that it tries to use standard vocabulary in order to bring lights up and to control them. So very simply, if I wanted to bring up a single light, I would start right here. I would go channel 1, and then I would hit at, and then I would enter the level of intensity that I want, for instance, 75%, and then enter. Now you'll notice right there what happened was channel 1 came up at 75%. There's a couple of little bypass ways that you can get to certain levels quicker as well. For instance, you could hit 1 and then hit full twice and it'll jump to full. And then since we're still selected in channel 1, if I then hit out, it would turn it off. There's no need to continually enter the channel 1 parameter. So if I changed my mind and I decided I didn't want it at full and I didn't want it out, I wanted it at 25, I could do the same thing. If you remember when we were patching, I used the through button. This is the same feature for any time. So if I want to do multiple channels, if I, for instance, wanted to do 1 through 5 at 25, I now have 5 channels that are at 25%. I'm going to go ahead and bring the rest of my front light up into that same. So that's channels 11 through 14. But I'm going to put them at 50%. So that's entering a value for any individual traditional conventional fixture like these ones that you see here. So once I brought that up, that light's now at 50% of its brightness. There are a couple of other types of fixtures that we entered into our plot. I'm going to scroll, I'm going to get here back into patch. I'm going to scroll down here, and the next one that I'm going to cover are actually these slim pars. So this is just a 4-color LED light fixture. So I'm going to select channels 121 through 124, and then instead of adding a level, I'm going to hit enter. You'll notice that that brings me over here. This looks much different than it did for like the conventional fixtures where it just had a single value. There's intensity, and then there's the red, the amber, the green, and the blue, and then these are color mix things which get a little bit more complicated for you. But in order to bring this as simply as possible, I'm going to take channel 121, and I'm going to bring the intensity to 50%. So now I've brought the light on at 50%. That 50% intensity is all of the red, all of the amber, all the green, and all the blue on at once. If you look down here, there's a bunch of these fixtures. You can see that there's an intensity, focus, color, form, image, shutter. These are actually hard keys on your actual lighting. This is where you'll find them on front of the actual board. So those buttons allow you to control certain elements of a fixture that has more parameters than just an intensity. Here in the offline editor, you can actually do this a number of ways. For instance, if I wanted my intensity to be 50%, I could actually click there on that, and you see intensity is highlighted, and then I could enter 50, enter. If I wanted of that 50% there to be no red in it, I could click there where red is highlighted and enter 0. I could even come down here and I could, since I'm on channel 121, I could hit green, and then I could enter that same parameter, 50. And it changes in each way. This is just a different way of controlling the actual color of the instrument, while this is the intensity of that same instrument. That really is just a color mix. Since I understand how I'm going to do this now, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take those channels. I'm going to go 121 through 124. I'm going to at them at 80%. I hit level there to get 80%. And then I'm just going to make sure that all of them have the same parameters. In this particular instance, I'm going to do 80%, and I'm just going to use the red and the blue. So I'm going to take my red to 100. I'm going to take my amber. Notice I unselected the red. I'm going to take my amber to 0. I'm going to take my green to 0. And so I'm probably going to have a purple light. And that's all what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it at that. So now what I have is I have these lights on to the varying levels that I had them before. And if I scroll down, I have these at 80% and they're just purple. Quick little interjection here. This is actually a revision, so it kind of is going to fall out of sequence. After having a conversation with a lighting designer who's really familiar with this board, he showed me something that I had no idea about that will make choosing these colors much more easy. So if you click on any of the windows on the plus sign, it's going to bring up the potential displays and controls. He pointed out to me the awesome one here called Color Picker. And when you select it, it actually gives you options of colors and an ability to adjust any color. So over here in my tracking, I'm going to select the fixtures. And then I can come over here and by Lee color, Roscoe color, or any other color, I can actually select and it'll control all of those fixtures. The last fixture that I want to cover are these Wibron revolution fixtures. This is much more difficult to visualize if you're just looking at it on a computer, because not only does this fixture have the ability to come on because it has an intensity, it also has a color scroller. You'll note right here, I'm actually going to enter So I've got those. Oh, I should have been over here on my live. Sorry, 101 through 104. So here they are. These are in our particular instance, I'm going to say that they're in the front of house and that they're facing the stage. If I wanted to change their parameters, I could do the same thing. I could select their features like the intensity, and I could bring them up to 50. And then the pan and the tilt here, I could set to a level that would allow them all to face a certain way. And then I could adjust that tilt so that they're all facing the same way. The color scroller, I can choose here under the color tab. If you notice I hit this arrow right here, on your actual board, there's four wheels actually relate to these 4 categories. So like if I select color, you can control the scroller speed and the fan. Don't ever mess with the fan. And the color. So I could select this color from the scroller. And then if I went back to focus, that's my pan and my tilt. So the actual wheel that you saw, if I would spin the wheel, that would change this parameter. So without having the desk in front of you and having lights that actually come on, these concepts are a little bit difficult to grasp because it's hard to go, okay, well, I would click the button that says beam and then I'd roll that one little wheel until it moved to where I wanted it to. But it is actually very intuitive. So whereas you can't really program a moving light without some sort of visualization, the conventional fixtures are much easier to understand. I want you to go ahead, experiment with those concepts a little bit, and then move on to the last video, which shows the basics of how to program a cue so that you can complete the assignment.